Hi everyone, Tyrone and Tina here, and we're a husband-wife team with Keller Williams, based here in Northern California, the Bay Area, and the name of our company is Campbell House Realty Group. And today we're going to talk to you about the 5 things that you should know when starting your real estate career.
So these are our top 5 tips. The first one is that before joining or before making that switch in career, make sure that you have some sort of savings in place, right? So it generally will take people 3 to 6 months to close their first transaction. And yes, the checks can be on the bigger end, but you know, not 100% goes back into your household because you got to pay the brokerage, you got to pay taxes, you have business expenses, things like that. And so going into this profession, you are going to start feeling it extremely tight if you're already living month to month. And so
3 to 6 months is if you're actually hitting it every day and you're actively out there looking for business. It can be longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely know people that it takes, you know, about a year to close their first transaction. And like, let's just say, even if it's a $20,000 check, right? Even at that, if it took you a year to hit it, that might not be enough. And what are you going to do in the meantime? And so one of our top tips is to make sure that you have at least 3 to 6 months worth of saved up. Now, this is a lot and this is hard to do. So there's different ways you can do that. You know, I think some people can, they might have a significant other that is working, that is helping them, you know, pay some of the bills. You can, leading up to it, you just have to plan for it. Or, I mean, and there are other people that we know that we even mentor that are like, they do drive Uber, they, you know, do DoorDash or whatever else. There's some other, you know, side jobs that they're able to do, or they're bartending, not obviously during the pandemic, but things like that, that they're able to do, some side hustles that they're able to make money on. Because you need money right away to pay your bills. And then obviously, even if you start in the business and you start on a transaction right away, it's going to take you at least 30 days to close that transaction and, you know, get paid. So either way, you have to have a little bit of money up front. Alternatively, the failure we see here when you don't have that is people quit too soon. Right? So I know I've had conversations with multiple people. I mean, and like I said, even when we joined in, that was a conversation we had to have. I mean, we knew going in, we had some money saved aside, and we did dip into our savings during that time because our production was also, wasn't where we needed it to be with our lifestyle. But, you know, definitely have some savings, but this is definitely something I've had conversations with some people that, you know, we help guide. And one of the biggest things is that they start feeling that pressure of, I'm not able to pay my bills. And that's a real valid concern. But the problem with that is that if you're going with that mindset and you're afraid because you don't have that money set aside already, now you might start possibly not advising people properly. Or if somebody decides not to buy or sell, it's going to hurt you so much more. Yeah. And you do have to come, and I feel like this is like a enlightenment thing, but it's like, if you're going to be successful in this business, like, you have to recognize people do not buy or sell houses so you can get paid. People buy and sell houses because it's the right decision for their family. And you always want to come from that, right? Like that, I feel like, you know, you always want to be a fiduciary to your client. You want to make sure that you're looking out for their best interest. And in order to do that, you cannot be worried about your finances.
And that's exactly why you can't put all of your eggs in one basket. So real estate truly is a numbers game. So you have to get out there and talk to more people. And the more people you talk to and you start advising them, then that's when the business is going to start rolling.
And so that's actually our tip number 2, which is that you need to start right away. So soon as you get licensed and you're picking out your brokerage, as you're doing that, you need to start networking right away. And if you did not know this, real estate is a networking business. And I say that like it's almost like people laugh when I say that. I did not know that. I had no idea I would be like in a business where I constantly had to network with people. And I am now, I've worked on my personality over the years and I've gotten more comfortable, but in many ways I am an introvert when it comes to meeting new people. It can be very difficult for me to like network and go meet people. Tyrone has the complete opposite personality. He actually really, I think, enjoys it and people love him and things like that. Whereas I come off as awkward and weird and all those other things. You know, in small groups I'm good, but in larger groups I'm definitely not as comfortable.
I think she's comfortable once you get her to talking, as you can tell in the video. So it's just making that initial, you know, engagement, right?
Yes.
So even, definitely start early.
Yeah, start early, because then the reason I say that is that it might not be natural for everybody, right? Some people might be more it might be more natural for than others, but regardless of where you're at or what your personality is, everybody needs to start networking right away, because it is a numbers game, as Tyrone was saying. The more people you talk to,
the greater your chances are of finding someone who is going to need your services. Right?
Absolutely. And then what's the opposite of that? So this is the mistake we see. So the tip is to definitely go and start networking, start talking to people about their real estate needs. And what we actually see a lot in the business is that people they get into the business and then they focus in, because it's new, they focus on the education. So then they're taking all these classes, which is great. You need to take them. However, if all you do if you're in classes all day, you're not talking to people, you're not going to have any transactions, right? Same thing with, as you're getting your stuff together, people are so bogged down in getting their website together, getting their business cards, getting all those details together that they're not talking to people. And that month or 2 months that you're not talking to people, when you do start having that conversation, it's going to take you 3 more months to close something. So now you're 5 months out, right? So for that reason, automatically, it's something that we did not do right away when we first got into the business. You know, it was definitely something that we failed to do. So that's one of our biggest tips, is that you start talking to people right away. Start talking to your neighbors, your ex-coworkers, whoever you know, your friends and your family, your social media. Let people know that you're in the business of real estate.
Absolutely. Yep. And the third, you know, tip is you have to get comfortable with rejection. You know, everybody's not going to be thrilled that you're talking to them about real estate or that you're at their front door, and that's okay, right? You have to be okay with that and just understand that that just means that they don't have a need right now. Don't take it personal.
Yeah. So I feel like this is one of those lessons that was, again, for my type of personality, this was really hard. And it took a long time to learn. And I struggle with this. He's laughing because when we don't get picked when we don't get hired by somebody, you know, to sell their house, like not that I take it personally, but I definitely will feel more down about it, right? Tyrone tends to be like, it's okay, we weren't a good fit, and he moves on a lot faster.
Either we wasn't a good fit, or I reflect back on what could we have done differently that could have changed the outcome, right?
Yeah.
So I look at it as a learning opportunity, a growth opportunity.
Yeah. And I have to tell myself to look at it that way. I don't naturally look at things that way. And so that is something that I've had to work on from within. And I will say that, like, I remember initially when we first were both starting doing this, right? And we actually have a friend of ours who's also in the business with us, and we would all go out and door knock. And we each picked like a street. We were each 1 block away, and we were door knocking like the next 3 blocks. And I remember we all got there. We all had the same script. Like, we had to go door knock and, you know, and see if people wanted to buy or sell in the area or whatever. And we went and did that. And when we met back at the car, you know, I was like very drained and I was very down. And I'm like, I had a horrible, like, I got rejected so many times, and most of the people either weren't home or they didn't want to do anything, whatever. And Tyrone and our other friend, they were like excited, and they were standing up still. I had actually sat down in the car. They were standing up. They were talking. And then when we had taken notes and we had talked to, you know, we went through our numbers, and our numbers were exactly the same. So like we each hit about 3 blocks. We more or less There was the same amount of people that were home. So like amount of doors that actually opened. We tracked that. We tracked how many people we spoke to, and we talked about how much information we got. And my numbers were very close to their number. I mean, it was basically the same. It wasn't even like,
the same.
yeah, they were like one difference, you know, and it's not like theirs were even higher or lower. I can't even remember if mine was higher or theirs was higher, but it was so similar that there was no difference. It was just purely my attitude. I saw all the doors that didn't open, or all the people that rejected me, and they saw the 4 or 5 people's information that they did get as an opportunity. And at the time, like, they were making fun of the situation, but what did you say to me?
I was like, oh, we're used to this. It's like the dating scene, you know? You know, you talk to all these girls, and, you know, all of them, they're not going to bite. But then the ones that do, hey, great, I'll work with those.
And that lets me know how I got asked out. And it makes me feel very special
Cat's out the bag.
about being your wife, that I was one of many.
Right.
And I just happened to say yes. So, you know.
Yeah, so you won the prize. You won me, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, hey.
So, yeah, when he said that, it made me laugh. But it also brought light to something where I was like, you know what? You're right. As a female, and we haven't been in the dating scene in a long time, so we don't know like currently how things go, especially like with the online dating. Because when we used to date back in the days, people had to go up to people and ask them out, right? And as a female, like, I never had to do that. I used to you just kind of waited, and then like guys came up to you, and then you decided if you wanted to go out with them or not, right? But the thing is, this is where like somebody like Tyrone, who before had to go up to somebody and have that conversation, guys got rejected. And it's so true. I never thought about it like this, but there are plenty of people that I've rejected in the past, right? There are plenty of guys that came up. Those guys. I know, I hurt them.
And not to say that, you know, getting rejected is, you know, easier for a guy than it is for a woman.
No.
You know, it's just that for us, you know, it was like, okay, well, this isn't that bad. You know, the world isn't coming to an end. So it was like,
I think
how many no's do I have to go through in order to find that yes?
I know. And it was interesting because Tyrone had that previous experience where he had to put himself out there, had been rejected, and he just knew that if one person rejects you, it's not the end of the world. I just go to the next one. That was a lesson learned. And he learned it earlier in his life than I did. I was learning it in my 30s, and it felt harder because I never, you know, I got protected from that, and I didn't have to do that. And so it really made me, it put things in perspective, because it wasn't that, you know, he had a better success rate at something than I did. It was just that he had a better attitude about it. And that really is the difference. And we're noticing, like, you know, as we continue on in the business, and especially the longer we stay in the business, the more we see some people leaving the business and other people flourishing. And a huge difference is, are you okay with failure? Are you okay with rejection? And are you going to get back up and keep moving forward? Or are you going to give up and go home, right? So
absolutely,
that's a huge
and that leads us to the next topic, which is be consistent. You know, real estate is about consistency, right? And what we find a lot of times is people will try one lead generation method, right? Whether it's door knocking or, you know, calling FISBOs or whatever. And then after they don't have success for a little while, they switch it up and go to something completely different, you know? And, you know, that's the wrong way to go about it. Whatever you're going to do, you want to make sure to focus in on it and be consistent, right? Because that's where the growth comes from, and that's where the business start to, you know, manifest. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you, Tyrone, kind of summed that up, that, yeah, just be consistent, you know, don't give up. And keep moving forward, because those are the people that are actually going to have success in the business.
Yeah. And the example I'll give of that is when we first started, I was door knocking. And I was door knocking in the area that we live in, and I wasn't having any success. It took about, how long was it? 6 months of door knocking consistently before we got our first listing. Now, picture that. 6 months of door knocking in the area consistently, and we finally got our first listing out of all those rejections. But what that did was it solidified my presence in this neighborhood, where neighbors now know me, so I no longer appear as just some stranger at their front door, right? So people started to let their guards down, and from that one listing I was able to generate more business, you know, other listings from other neighbors who realized that we got this house on the market and things like that, right? So had I given up at month 3 or month 4 or even month 5, we would not have been able to successfully, establish ourselves in this farm as the realtors of choice.
Yeah, and we can definitely go into a little bit more detail, in another video on what it does really mean to be consistent, right?
Yeah.
Because is it like your consistency with your schedule? Is it consistency with your activities, with your mindset, things like that? Yeah, there's a lot of different aspects of it. So our 5th tip is set a goal. So I definitely think that people come into the business and because they haven't really thought about like setting a goal or really thought about what they're working towards. They're kind of just spinning their wheels. And we're not gonna lie to you, this is a tough business to be in. You are gonna work hard. The hours are gonna be long. They're not consistent hours in the sense that you might work mornings, evenings, weekends,
The profession is not like the TV shows, where you find a buyer, you show them 2 properties, and hey, you're in contract.
Yeah.
So, get that out your mind if you think that's what real estate is going to be.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into in working with buyers and sellers than what we see on TV. And in order to stay motivated, in order to stay consistent, and actually this is moving up to some of the other goals we talked about, in order to do those other things, you have to have a goal in place. So sit down, set a goal. It could be how many units you want to close. It could be how much money you want to make in that first year. It could be what are you going to do with that money?
Absolutely. Make sure that you reward yourself, right? So, set a goal with your family and say, you know what? I want to save X amount of dollars, and if I do that, then we can take a trip to Mexico or wherever, right? And at least you have some kind of goal that's motivating you to go out there and do the activities that you're not going to want to do because you have a goal and you made a promise to your family and they're depending on you to go out there and achieve that, right?
Yeah, and so that's actually the bonus tip, is to not just set a goal, but actually set at least one of the goals with your family. So you can, when you're setting goals, you can have multiple goals, right? You can have the goals for the units, your gross income. Yeah. But one of the other goals you could have is, after I close my first deal or second or third, what are you going to do with those funds? And so this is something we still do now. We definitely, when we set our goals in the beginning, when we had that first tough conversation, after being in the business for a few months, when we were failing and we sat down and we had that tough conversation, one of the things we said at that time was, one of the goals was, next 6 months, we have to prove to ourselves that we can stay in this business. We're not going to fail out of this business, right? And that was just the goal at the time. Can we survive? Can we make enough money to make sure that we can survive in this business? And in order to do that, we actually had to calculate our cost of living. We had to know how much money we actually need to make after taxes, after the business expenses and things like that. So it forced us to go back and do our budget, to be very mindful of like, where's our money going and what's our cost of living. And we based it on that. We were like, this is our goal. We just want to make this much money so we can even break even that first year. And guess what? That's exactly what we did. We achieved that goal. And so this is another bonus tip on top of this. And this is something me and him, how we set our goals are very different for Tyrone and I, but I would say like definitely do a little bit of a stretch goal, because most people, when you set a goal, you do tend to make that goal, right? Because then you're running towards something. So you're going to start achieving that goal. So you want to do it so that it's not easily achievable. It's pulling you.
Yourself.
Yeah. You're definitely pushing yourself so that you're seeing growth every year. Yeah. So those are our top 5 tips on the things to do when you're first starting in the real estate industry.
Yeah, so great. So do us a favor, hit the like button below and make sure you subscribe for more videos as we come out with them. Thanks.